evening. So, Sherry, I don't know if you want to, if we want to flip to slides or.
Yeah, I had to get us on record first, but
So we'll be starting out this evening. Joe Nordlinger here, our CEO of NCFF, is here, and Erick Hernandez, our Deputy Fire Marshal, are going to talk to us a little bit about resilience. And then Erick's also going to follow up talking a little bit more about the inspections that are going on across the county. We've had some questions, and he has been working with us and following up with answering all questions. So we have him on the call. We're lucky to have him here tonight. So thank you, Erick. And then Steve Burgess is going to give us an update. Each quarter, we've been doing updates from him on veg operations, fuel management projects. And so with that, I think we should probably just let Joe and Erick take it away so we can make sure that we cover all of this in just the 1 hour.
Great,
right.
happy to do it.
Go ahead, Joe. You go first.
Yeah, is there another slide? Okay, great. Yeah, so Erick and I will just sort of tag team off of one another here. I'll sort of open up and then he can jump in and sort of round out some of the pieces maybe that I don't cover and then vice versa. So we wanted to make sure that we had an opportunity to update people around sort of broad efforts towards wildfire resilience in the county, how Napa Firewise is working closely with the Fire Marshal's office and the county to sort of best coordinate people's investments in in some of these resilience measures. So many of the folks on the call here are familiar with our Valley Stewards initiative to develop these enhanced resilience sites around the county in the coming years. And those enhanced resilience sites will include a range of different measures that landowners may have completed that we want to document or that we want to encourage landowners to undertake so that we can then capture all of those resilience assets and access points and attributes. So these are things like improving old dozer containment lines or doing fuel mitigation work. And so when we work with landowners to do that work, in some cases it's work they've already done. In other cases, they are prescriptions that we want to help those landowners undertake. We are working out a framework with the county, and this will be done closely with Napa County Fire and the Fire Marshal's office so that we can ensure we propose those measures in such a way and under Napa County Fire's jurisdictional authority such that we can ensure that the landowner, as they undertake these investments, does not somehow get tangled up or triggered with respects to the conservation regulations. So we are having some very productive conversations with the county CEO, with the head of PBS, with the fire administrator's office, with the fire marshal's office, with Napa County Fire, to ensure that when we're working with landowners as Napa Firewise, or when Erick is working with landowners in a consultative approach around their defensible space or making suggestions about how they might treat some of their forested lands, that we, meaning Napa Firewise and the Fire Marshal and Napa County Fire, do it in such a way that we can sort of capture the totality of what we want landowners to do and then present that as a plan to the planning, building, environmental services, so that we essentially can waive certain requirements with respect to the conservation regulations because they are done under the context of the need for wildfire resilience planning and implementation. And so I want to just sort of at a high level characterize that. Erick can chime in as well. The key thing is we want to make sure that landowners in the valley, as they're thinking about making these investments, know that by working with Napa Firewise, we are also working with the county to make sure that we can keep them out of harm's way in terms of triggering some conservation regulation that then sort of gets them tangled in some kind of a compliance or enforcement issue, to make sure that these things are done in such a way that they're done with the best practices, and adhere to the guidelines, and ultimately allow us to complete these investments so that the landowner can improve not only their wildfire resilience, but do it in conjunction with their neighbors, and we can produce a larger, better outcome that helps CAL FIRE and Napa County Fire with their response, and allows us to do these things kind of, again, under best practices. So why don't I kind of pause? I know, Erick, maybe you can sort of chime in and add sort of the work that you're doing. I know subsequently you're going to talk about some of the inspections and stuff, but that's kind of what we wanted to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joe. And you know, Joe's 100% correct. I mean, we have a good problem happening right now where, you know, we have a lot of property owners that are taking ownership of their lands and they're doing additional work that's outside of the defensible space. As we know that the Napa County Defensible Space Ordinance requires a minimum of 100 feet. So with that being said, a minimum can change at the fire code officials' discretion. In other words, you know, we take in consideration fuel load, fuel types, topography. So some properties are required to maintain 150 feet or some others 200, depending on, you know, where they reside and the things that I just mentioned. So, but at the same time, PBES has the authority to ensure that any work that's being performed outside of defensible space, um, the conservation regs are being met. And so that's basically what we're working on right now, is hashing that out so that when people or before people are doing any work with outside of defensible space, we have a clear process so that one, you know, they don't have a visit from code enforcement. Number two, there's no penalties involved. Number three, we are working together and identifying these projects so that again, we're backing up the property owner on what they're trying to achieve, and number two is looking at the big picture. You know, maybe part of this project we can tie into another project on the neighboring property, or you know, establish a perimeter fuel break to a community, or utilize it as on the fire operation as far as like um, a landing zone for a helicopter. So those are some of the things that we're working on behind the scenes. But our main objective right now is to establish what those parameters are and the process, so that once we have that process together, we're going to start going on a campaign with NCFF and the county, and we're going to start educating the community of what certain steps they need to do, the do's and don'ts. That way we're not holding anybody's project behind.
Yeah, exactly. And so you know, we've had some very productive conversations. We've got a path forward with PBS, with CAL FIRE, Napa County Fire, the Fire Marshal's office, work closely with the county CEO so that we've got sort of the right intent. We know that as we're building these enhanced resilience sites and or just providing guidance to landowners about mitigation efforts that they can undertake, these might be fuel clearing. In the course of establishing an enhanced resilience site, we might find old legacy dozer containment lines that we'd like to scrape and improve. We conceivably even might find an area where we want to connect one dozer line to another dozer line, and that might mean cutting a new little bit of dozer line to connect those two. And so all of those things, when we're working with landowners to develop this, what we call like a master resilience plan, if we capture them in the right way, working with the fire marshal's office and working with Napa County Fire, we essentially can go advise PBS. They would like to not have this stuff get tangled up in their shop. They would like to know that the entity with jurisdictional authority, which is CAL FIRE and Napa County Fire, has the ability to say these are resilience measures that are part of a larger effort to improve the resilience in the valley, that then they can step back and say, please follow best practices, go forth and do the work. We want to be supportive of it. This is sort of the county talking. We want to be supportive of it so that we can accelerate these investments out there in rural unincorporated Napa and improve the safety of all of our residents.
And absolutely, and to piggyback on that, I'll give credit to JR. I know that, today I turned on my tablet command. We have our system that we work on when responding to incidents. It's tablet command here in Napa County. And one of the beauties about this is where I started noticing that there's a lot of fuel reduction projects that are automatically in there. So the beauty of that is if any of our battalion chiefs or captains or field staff are responding to an incident, we can pull up those maps and we can pull up those fuel reduction projects so that we can use them to our advantage on the operations side. So, from the fire administrator side, J.R. Rogers is being critical with helping us with that. So it's another component. Not only are we working with PBS to make sure that property owners continue their great work, but at the same time, on the operations side, we'll include those maps in there as well. So there's a lot of good stuff happening with these meetings. These are happening behind the scenes. So as we get more information and we have a process, we'll revisit that and we'll let you guys know what that looks like, and so we can start educating what that looks like.
Any questions? It looks like we have somebody from AXR. I'm just wondering who that is, because we had a handful of contacts that were going to join one of our events. Who's on the line from AXR?
This
That's
is
Dawn.
Devin.
Okay, great.
Devin. So I'm gonna be on for another 10 minutes or so, but I do believe that Dawn was hoping to join too.
Okay, great. Just great to make the connection. I know we had an event that a handful of folks from AXR were going to join, and glad to have you on the call. Hey, Dawn.
There's Dawn.
I
Oh,
found
that's right.
the
Dawn is there.
unmute button. Thank you.
That's right.
New to
All right.
the Spring Mountain Fire Safe Council steering committee. Newly
Great.
voted in.
Yeah, we had a chance to meet on our event on the 29th. Great to have you guys here.
And Don had a specific question for Eric regarding a particular neighbor we've been dealing with. It's probably a pretty good example when we get to Q&A. So.
Yeah.
Well, if you guys want, so Lori, so every other week, Lori and Sherry and I have a standing meeting, and we review some of the common questions that you guys have, meaning the Fire Safe Council leads, and they bring it to my attention. So they gave me a list of stuff that they want me to provide some guidance on. If it's a good time, I can start talking about this. Okay, perfect. So a couple questions. The first question is, this is in regards to our Defensible Space inspection program, okay? When I leave a message or send an email with questions to the fire marshal, how long should I anticipate waiting for a reply? So if you receive a notice to abate fire hazard, on the bottom of that notice, there is an email address on there. That's our preferred method to get a hold of us. Here's the reason why. We have already inspected various estates, the initial inspections, estates, the Highlands, the Pines, Gordon Valley, Circle Oaks, and we're going to start with Angwin tomorrow. So what that means is there's a lot of people that we're covering right now. We have 6 defensible space inspectors. So that means that there's a lot of boots on the ground, and they're doing an amazing job. But if everybody's reaching out to me directly, it's a work overload. So what we've established is a process so that people can go directly, and that's that email address. So the direction would be send an email to that fire department general inbox. And obviously our office is open Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, which means our office staff is going to be sending those emails to our appropriate inspectors. So the goal is within 48 business hours, we will get back to you. One of our inspectors will get back to you. If you have questions about, I received this notice, what do I need to do? I need a little bit more time. Give us 48 business hours. Okay. Phone call. We prefer email if you can, because again, we're getting inundated with these phone calls. So we rather have everything in writing. Okay, so that's one. If I email for clarification on abatement notice and do not receive a response in 2 days or more, can I request an extension to comply with abatement notice? So here's a catch. This inspection program has been out there for more than 6. I've been here for 6 years. And so it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody that our crews are going out there and knocking on doors. So and we've done a tons of education. We go to Fire Safety Council meetings. We talk about defensible space requirements. We do a lot of marketing. And so the reality is, if you need a little bit of guidance, that's fine. But the reality is, nobody should be questioning what are the requirements for Napa County at this point. If we live in California. We've suffered so many fires in the state of California. I think pretty much, we should all have a good idea what defensible space is. So you will get an email or a phone call within 48 hours. Okay. Can the red tag include more details about what is needed to comply? So in other words, one of the things that I directed my staff last week is making sure that if we are going to issue a notice, let's be more specific on what we're requiring you as a property owner to do. So the answer is yes. I've directed the staff, and I'm also having a standing meeting with them tomorrow morning, and I'll direct them again. I want to make sure that as a receiver, if I'm not home and I come home to a notice to abate fire hazard, I want to make sure that I know exactly what is being asked of me so that I can bring this property into compliance. So yes, I will make sure, and I'm making sure that my inspectors are doing a better job on identifying and writing information on that comment section in the notice to abate fire hazard. So that's a good suggestion, and I'll make sure it's being done. Are oleanders prohibited? And so, Sherry, do you want to pull up the document that I sent over?
Yeah, give me just a minute here.
Okay. So in other words, so as Sherry's pulling this up right now, I want to showcase some language in our Defensible Space Ordinance. Okay. So oleanders so let me backtrack. We have a list of pyrophytic plants that you cannot have within 30 feet. And that list is built within our guidelines. However, built into those guidelines, it basically clearly states that those requirements are not subject to, and limited to that list. In other words, only because you have the oleanders or lavender is not part of this list doesn't mean that you get to let it go wild. One of the common issues that I'm finding is a lot of these plants that are non-pyrophytic, like perfect example is ivy. Ivy is not something that's waxy or oily. But the problem with ivy is if you let it grow crazy, it's going to create a lot of buildup underneath. And so all it takes is one ember to land within that ivy, and it's going to create a lot of flames, and it's going to create a lot of radiant heat to a structure, especially if you have a wood-sided structure. So in other words, defensible space is not just here's a list of plants. It's proper maintenance of your vegetation. You are allowed to have oleanders. You are allowed to have ivy and other plants that are not listed, but it doesn't mean that you get to let them grow crazy. What we're trying to make sure is we're saving your structure, and we're giving firefighters an opportunity to increase the potential of saving that structure or defending that structure. The only way we're going to do that is if we're reducing the fuel load and proper maintenance of those plants. Okay, so there's two things. One of the things that I've directed our staff is one, if it's overgrown, and if it's something that can be trimmed, let's put that information in there and write it in there so that you could properly trim it back and provide what kind of guidance you want them to meet the code. If it needs to be cut because it's on a wood-sided structure and it's basically a whole wall next to a wood-sided structure, that's a concern. So just understand where we're coming from is, there you go. If you want to scroll down right to the let's see, right there. Okay, so when you look at pyrophytic species, right? So it says these species include but are not limited to the following. And then you have shrubs, trees, ecological weeds, and exotic plants. So when you look at that list, those are the plants that you cannot have within 30 feet of a structure. However, per this guideline, it states these species include but are not limited to the following. In other words, you could have your oleanders, but that doesn't mean that you could let them grow crazy. Just proper maintenance. That's all we're asking for. Okay. if the homeowner has limited income or is disabled, are there resources the county can provide to assist? And so there are no current programs in addition to the chipping program that JR oversees. There are no additional programs or funds that the county can provide. I know that in the past, our Firewise friends have done an amazing job with the cost share program. But two things that I highly suggest is one, some people are on a fixed income or some people have hardships. What I would recommend is if you go to our website, we have a list of contractors. And so as a government entity, I can't say go to this contractor, but some contractors have expressed that if they are contacted by individual property owners experiencing a hardship, they will work with them as far as reducing cost. I can't provide that guidance on which ones those are, but I can say if you go to our website, there's a list of those contractors that you can call that are familiar with our requirements because I put a class together and they've attended our class and they are willing to work with you. So do your homework. Here's a list of contractors and they will work with you. And then the second thing is the chipper program is always available. One good way of reducing the cost is elevating our chipper program. So continue talking to your communities and letting them know that JR is doing an amazing job and moving the chipper program throughout the county. And again, the chipper program is a free service. Let's see. Here's another one. Can the inspectors access a property if residents are not home? The answer is no. So that's a violation of your Fourth Amendment. So if we show up to a property and there's a structure on that particular property, legally we cannot walk around the structure unless we have permission from the property owner. Now, we do have the same privileges as the USPS or as the mail carrier. We do have the ability to walk up to the front door if there's no gate, and we have the ability to knock on the door. And that's one of the expectations is our inspectors are actually knocking on doors because they want to walk the property with you. One, they want to provide some education. Number two, they want to provide some guidance by you walking with them. So if nobody's home, then the rule is they will retrieve from the front door and they will do the inspection the best they can from the public right of way. That way we're not violating your Fourth Amendment right. Okay. Now, if it's a vacant, undeveloped lot, then that's a whole different ballgame, obviously, because there's no expectation of privacy and we could do the inspection from the public right of way. Okay. Let's see. What can they be expected to receive in terms of details about any violations? We went over that. Our inspections done from the street or inspectors allowed to come in on property unless there's a gate. So if there is a gate, okay, if there is a gate, my inspectors have been instructed to if there's a call button, to hit the call button, introduce themselves, and let the property owner know what they're there for. You as a property owner have every right to turn us away, and we will definitely respect that. Preferably, we'll make an attempt to contact you via that call button. And if nobody's home, then we'll try to do the inspection from the public right away. But one of the things that I've learned is majority of these communities like Berryessa Estates, Circle Oaks, Highlands, Pines, there's no gates. So these are lots that are less than 1 acre. So that's pretty much non-applicable. Okay. Can I get an extension if my contractor cannot do the work within the abatement process period? Yes. So I've had several people reach out to us via email and requested extensions. And what they've done is they've obviously have included in their email the contractor that's going to be performing the work. Absolutely. But here's one thing though, is keep in mind, we're in California, and so we cannot give you a month or 2 months extension. I've actually had people ask me, well, I'm going to go up on a trip in a couple of weeks. Can you give me a 2 months extension? The answer is no. We have a responsibility to make sure that we're upholding our defensible space ordinance and guidelines. And if I can give 1 week, and I know that some of these properties haven't been touched in a long time. So if I know that the work is going to be beyond the 14 days, I want to make sure that you come up with a plan. Let us know what that plan is in writing. I would like an extension. I'm going to take care of 20% of the work in the first week, the 50% the second week, and then another 30%, another 20%. We'll work with you. We're here to work with you. We want to do it strategically. I know that when cutting grasses, there are certain times throughout the day that shouldn't be cutting, especially in those red flag warnings. Nobody should be cutting. But more importantly, we want to make sure that you're planning ahead. One of the things that I've learned is heavies in the winter, lights in the spring. So all your heavy work, brush clearing, all the tree limbing, all that should be done in the winter months where permissible burning is allowed. And the only thing that you should be worried about is your annual grasses during the spring. Okay. Once we get into June, then you should be sitting pretty and just doing low maintenance on your annual grasses. All right. And then let's see, what are the things inspectors have been asked to look for? So anything that's in our defensible space guidelines, and that link that Sherry just provided will detail what those guidelines are in question. And if in the future, or if someone wants to reach out to me directly and have a further explanation, send me an email and I'll be more than happy to schedule a meeting and go over those requirements. The reality is, we're looking at a minimum of 100 feet from structures, critical fire infrastructure as well. So critical fire infrastructure is water storage tanks, fire pumps, right? So the other thing is solar panels, ground-mounted solar panels. So those are the type of things that you should, and propane tanks. You should have a minimum of 100 feet of clearance around critical fire infrastructure as well. On the structure itself, look at your roof. We look at all the vents, make sure that you have proper screening. Look at your zone 0. And then I'll get into zone 0 in a second. And then we look at the 30 feet of non-paraphytic plant species, all the brush, all the type of plants that you have. I have a lot. And then beyond the 0 to 30, 30 to 100, we're looking at your tree spacing, vertical clearance, horizontal clearance, and then the annual grasses. And we also look at the depth of mulch and wood chips. Okay, so those are the type of things that we're looking for. Again, we're in the state of California, and if you need a little bit more clarification, just send me an email and I'll be more than happy to clarify, or I'll be more than happy to go out there and meet with you one-on-one, or have one of my inspectors meet with you. But that's what we're looking for. And let's see, how much discretion do the inspectors have? For instance, types of plants not specifically on the prohibited list. I think we already went over that. If you can have plants that are not within that paraphytic plant species list, but that doesn't mean that you just let them grow crazy. Okay. Zone 0 is a big one. Okay, there's a lot of people that have been reaching out recently about what the zone 0 requirements are. So I want to make sure that I convey proper information. As of right now, the state of California, the State Fire Marshal's Office has not enacted and detailed what zone 0 requirements are. We know that zone 0 is 0 to 5 feet, but they haven't released the actual verbiage of what that is going to look like. So there's two things happening. One is within the next couple of weeks, the State Fire Marshal's Office is going to release language of what zone 0 is going to look like. Are they going to allow certain plants? Is it going to be a moonscape? All that stuff is going to come out through the State Fire Marshal's Office in the next couple of weeks. Once they release that, all the jurisdictions in the state of California have to adopt those requirements, and those jurisdictions, such as Napa County, we have the ability to take that language and we can make it more strict. Okay, so in the back end right now, I've been looking at Moraga. I've been looking at City of Berkeley and Marin, and I'm trying to put together a zone 0 so that we can, so we don't have to wait for the State Fire Marshal's Office. I want to get in front of it. Once we establish what zone 0 requirements are, obviously it's going to be a little bit unfair for us to just, from one day to another start requiring certain things. So our goal is to go on an educational campaign and start educating the community of what Zone Zero is going to look like. So at the following year, we'll start enforcing. So that means you'll have a certain period to start working little by little on achieving Zone Zero requirements. The reality is, right now, we'll provide some guidance, but there's no official language that has been released yet. And that's pretty much it as far as some of this was repetitive, but that's pretty much it from the list that was provided to me. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, this is Don at AXR. We have a neighbor who we don't know who it is on the west side of us. And we've had in the past 3 years, trees fall on our property, very close to customers and close to our barn. But Pam was very helpful in sending a note to me saying the neighbor has been somewhat cooperative, but then again not. So what should I do?
Okay, that's a great question.
And I don't want to upset the neighbor. That's the worst thing a winery can do.
Well, the first thing that I always recommend people is talk to your neighbors, and sometimes they just need a little nudge. Now, if you don't want to do that, which I respect, we do have a process of submitting complaints. So in the past, people would text me, call me, or visit me, or email me. So obviously, I have over 780 square miles in Napa County to cover. So what we've done is we facilitated a process. And so let me see if I could pull this up really quick, and then I'll show you guys where to go. Let me share my screen really quick. Boom, right
And
here.
Eric, we've been to that property before, so maybe you, Brandon, and I can meet with Dawn and kind of look at this situation now. I think many of us are in this situation where neighbors' trees due to the fire are jeopardizing other property. So
Okay.
yeah.
Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So when you go to and I'll put it in the comment section right now, I'll send the link. But the method that we want people submitting complaints is going to be through our website. So when you go to our County of Napa Fire Marshal's office website, when you scroll down, you'll see that there's a Defensible Space inspections complaints, inspection and complaints. So you will click on that and it'll guide you on how to submit a complaint. So I know that one of the common questions that we receive is, I don't want my neighbors to know that it was me. So just so you guys know, per policy, we don't advertise and we don't let the neighbor know who the reporting party is. We don't want to create neighbor wars. Most of the times, neighbor wars are already happening, and we don't want to fuel the fire more. But our policy is we don't disclose the information of who the reporting party is. The method that should be used for complaints should be here. When you this is the first year that the county has allowed us to have 6 defensible space inspectors. Okay, so I have 3 teams of inspectors. One of the teams, they focus on AB 38 real estate inspections and complaints. So every morning when they come in, they look at our spreadsheet. So when you submit this information right online, all this information gets sent to our let's see if I could pull it up on this one. All this information gets sent into a spreadsheet, okay? And so our defensible space inspectors come in every morning, and what they do is, and every morning and every afternoon, they look at that list, and they will, one, either email, or 2, they will call the reporting party to acknowledge that they've received that complaint. That way, they know that way you're getting the notice that and the acknowledgement that something's going to be done, and they're going to initiate an inspection. Okay, so that's what we're looking for. as far as submitting complaints.
Thank you, Eric.
Mm-hmm. So the other thing that I want to throw out there is abatements. So I I have a list of 10 properties, vacant lots in various estates. Last year we worked closely with various estates, and one of the questions, and we heard the community loud and clear, what happens when some of these properties are not being cleared? There's a lot of work being done. So the county gives me $200,000, a pot of money, and that money is supposed to be utilized for abatements, abatement warrants. So I have 3 contractors that I can elevate and have them to do work. So in order for that to happen, I have to go through the through the court system, and I have to initiate a process so that I can get an inspection and an abatement warrant. So this year, in the next couple of days, I'm going to submit a request for 10 properties in various estates that need to be abated. So once I submit those notices to the court, I wait for the court system to get back to me and grant me those, and then I'll initiate our contractors to do work in there. Here's a catch though, and I want to be clear about this. We cover 788 square miles. So the reality is I cannot abate every single property. Okay, if I abate one property in Spring Mountain, one in various estates, one in Highlands, we're not going to create fire resiliency, right? And so what I'm focusing on is I want to make sure that I'm taking one community and I'm utilizing those funds to support that community. The next year, or if I'm able to come up with more funds, I'll move on to another community and another. So lots of times I'm having people ask me, my neighbor has a tree that's overhanging my structure. It's one little limb. It takes more time for me to get the abatement warrant, and those funds are not, one limb is not going to be a make it or break it. Okay. So I just want to stress that information. I want to make sure that those funds are utilized to make a good and big impact on the community. So just want to share that. We'll always go out and look at these properties, but just know that, I'm limited on what I can and can't do as far as abatements. Any other questions? Let me see here. Let me look at this.
Quick,
Perfect.
Joe.
Fire Marshal.
Yeah, just really quickly for Dawn and AXR. So we should connect because there's actually a fairly substantial project, grant-funded project that will wind up doing quite a bit of work on, I believe, if I'm looking at the correct place, the neighbor that you're concerned about, both of those neighbors. And so it's part of a project that we are project managing for the county. The work is not likely to happen for, at the earliest, maybe middle or end of next year would be when it gets underway. But I think it's kind of one of these examples of where, there's a good pretext to reach out to those landowners. And Pam, this is the one that I talked about that sort of has to do with some of your surrounding neighbors too, where essentially the county is coming with a gift, right? And the county has secured a chunk of funds. We're helping them to manage and implement that. It's going to do quite a bit of work. This gives us all kinds of reasons to go have a conversation with those neighbors and those landowners to say, hey, there's work coming. We want to help you make sure that you're aware that the stuff is happening in probably 26, 27. And then as a result of that, we want to make sure that those lands are categorized and factor into this enhanced resilience site strategy, so that we can help them then understand maybe resources to help them maintain the work. So it's kind of one of these examples of where if we sort of get involved, we can kind of triangulate and figure out how we can mix and match and connect with some other funds that are coming down the pike to go have a conversation that's not just, hey, you should be doing, but hey, there's some resources that are coming to help you do this.
And the other thing that I also want to make sure, first of all, thanks, Joe, for clearing that up. The other thing that I want to make sure that I'm conveying is, for instance, Don, let's say you have a concern about one of the neighbors, right? And we go out there, we do an inspection, the property owner we issue a notice, the property owner doesn't do anything. It doesn't, even though that we may or may not have the ability to abate that property, it doesn't mean that we're going to completely ignore it. A perfect example of that is I got off the phone with Joe Sponseller before our meeting, and I shared some good news. There's a 52-acre vacant undeveloped lot in Berrio's Highlands that backs up to about 50 homes. So we received a complaint, a notice was issued. I sent, we didn't receive any, no work was performed, and we didn't receive any, phone calls or emails about an extension or anything. So what we ended up doing is I ended up sending an email to our county council. Our county council provided me with the contact information for that property owner. So once I received that information, I was able to make contact with the property owner, and the property owner had one of his assistants meet me at the property earlier today. And so what we ended up doing is I ended up pointing out what work needs to be done and what the concerns are. And so in doing so now, just taking that a little extra step in contacting them, they understand what our parameters are. And now, because of that phone call and that meeting, they're going to be going in there and providing 150 feet of defensible space to 50 property owners. So in other words, even though we may or may not have the ability to do an abatement warrant for one particular property owner, it doesn't mean that we're going to ignore it. There's other venues and avenues, and this is one of them. I'll work with our county council to get contact information for that owner.
I'll
Thank
just
you,
throw out
Dustin.
there that, for Don, this is a similar issue to a lot of other people where he's got a particular issue with these burned trees, right? That are dangerous for any guests at the winery. How does that fit in with the bigger project, Joe, that is coming into play? All of that information would be helpful when we go to see or call on that neighbor to say, okay, here's the things that we're getting covered for you in this bigger project, but we need you to do X now, like some kind of way to help them understand the priorities of the more immediate pressing needs. But all of us need to understand in that fire safe council what that project's going to do and not do for that property.
Yeah,
in
and
this
I'd be happy to go out and coordinate with you all. I mean, we have to, as part of the work that we're doing for the county on this, we're handling the landowner access agreements, and there'll be some environmental work that needs to take place. But I mean, again, this is just sort of a good example of a bigger, more holistic conversation we can have with them that is not just you need to do something, but help is on the way. But if you could get started doing X, Y, and Z, or whatever.
Joe, to add to that, and thank you, it's very informative for us. I think I know the answer. Am I allowed to have somebody go up and trim 2 or 3 trees that are, in my opinion, our opinion, dangerous to our property?
Eric?
Hey, Don,
That's a
are
common
those
question.
your trees or your neighbor's trees?
I think he's
Neighbors.
saying they're on the neighbor's land,
Neighbors.
but
Yeah.
they threaten his
Yep.
property.
So my understanding is, and this is a common question that we constantly receive. Throughout my career, I've learned that if it's your neighbor's tree, but limbs are coming onto your property, the property owner that owns the tree has a responsibility to trim that tree, unless you go to court and the judge deems otherwise. That's where we come in. If the limbs are within or over your roof and they're what we consider a violation, we will notify that property owner that there's a violation and they need to trim the tree. It's not fair to you, it's their tree. That from a government perspective, that's best practices.
Hey, Don, Steve Burgess here. So my mom down in Napa, living in Browns Valley, her neighbor's trees were leaning towards her house. They're not a fire hazard, but they were a physical hazard, which is the same scenario you're in.
Yep.
And I told my mom to notify the neighbor in writing that there was this liability. It was going to punch her windows out, punch the roof out, whatever. And the neighbor initially said, "Oh, it's not my problem." And then a week later, a tree crew shows up because they contacted their insurance company and found out once they've been notified in writing, they are then completely responsible for any damages. So that's something you might want to talk with your insurance agent about. is that you've got this neighbor with physical hazards. And again, like Eric started with a few minutes ago, maintaining positive relationships with your neighbors is A1. So if there's a way you can word things without burning any bridges, that would be great. I see that too much in this valley. So
Yeah, especially since we're in year 4 of our permit request.
And,
So
and we have good news
Don and
for it. We have
Don
good
and
news for that neighbor, right?
yeah,
So
Don and Pam, I just sent you the 3 landowners. I mean, there's a whole bunch of other landowners also that are going to benefit from this grant that the county has secured that we're managing. But I listed the 3 landowners directly around your property, Don, the AXR
Thank you.
property, as I understand it. I'm pretty sure it's the right one. You guys
Thank
are
you.
Silverado, what is it?
Silverado Trail Wine Partners.
LLC. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're the 3 landowners around that.
Thank you.
thank you so much.
And let's get scheduled. Let's work on scheduling that. I mean, we have a lot of reasons to talk to those folks. So we've consumed a bunch of the agenda here. It's
Yeah,
been
I'll-
good,
I'll,
healthy
let's-
conversation, but I want to make sure, Lori's wants to make sure we stick to the time frame, which I think is a worthy objective. So
Well, I just want
Well-
to say thank you guys. Submit your questions directly to Lori and Sherry for the next one. Myself or my boss will be on these meetings, one of us every month. But if there's something specifically you want us to touch on, work with Lori. Lori and Sherry, and then they'll send it over to us so we can be prepared for these meetings. Just like today, it worked out perfectly. So thank you guys so much for your time and all the good work that everybody's doing. It's greatly appreciated.
Thank you so much, Eric and Joe, for sharing all this with the Fire Safe Council folks. Really appreciate you too as well.
Yes, greatly appreciated. And everyone, Eric has made himself so available to Sherry and I, and as we're, regularly, like I said, he's meeting with us. We're a way to raise up questions. But as you are, our leads out in the community, you are the antenna into your areas. You're hearing things. So we wanted to make sure that you were hearing directly from Eric as you continue to hear things within your fire safe councils. If people, for whatever reason, aren't emailing directly to Eric, please let us know so that we can convey, so he can understand what some of the issues are. You saw it today. It was beautiful to how he responded to all these questions that have come up. And, as they continue to come up, we want to make sure people are getting those answers. And you're really, critical as the leadership and, like I said, the antenna out into your specific regions. That's why this call is so important. And we knew this was going to be the lion's share of this call tonight. We thought it was really important to have this conversation. So thank you so much, Joe, and thank you, Eric, for all of your time and your continued time, Eric, every week. Because while he's on the call for an hour tonight, trust me, Eric has made himself very available to us every week, and we really appreciate it.
Yes, and also JR, I see JR from Fire Administration is here, and Jason Fryer from Cal Fire / Napa County Fire. Much appreciation to all of you. If everyone wants to stay on for like 4 more hours, we're gonna get to everything.
Yeah. So just quickly, I know that we had committed earlier this year, everyone on the call, that we would get an update quarterly on what's going on with vegetation management. So with the time left, I'd love to give most of the time over to Steve and then check in with anyone else from fire if there are any other updates. JR, for example, if you have anything you needed to share, or otherwise, let's just let Steve run with it.
all right, hi everybody, and what I like to do is share visuals so that you can easily tell what I'm doing. And I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen right now. Screen 2. Is it sharing right now? Share. Are you guys seeing my slideshow? It says you are sharing.
we can see it.
Yep.
Okay,
You can
great.
put it into play mode if you want.
I'd like
presentation
to.
mode.
Last time it freaked out on me. So that's working. Great. So the last time I did a visual update on the Napa Communities Firewise Foundation projects, I stopped with this slide. Remember this one? This is Highway 128 heading out to Con Valley. And so this is the roadside fuels reduction treatment we did there. So then I'll continue along with what work we've done since then. We wrapped up our CAL FIRE 21 3 or 4 year project up in the Angwin area, and we actually had some piles left over, about 130 that we didn't get to. And through an amendment that people like JR, JC, Joe worked on, we got some help with CAL FIRE. So we got some CAL FIRE assists. So any of you that live in the Angwin area, you might have seen this plume of smoke coming out of the Sunset by Howell Mountain Road area. And we got engines from CAL FIRE, and they burned 130 piles and a bunch of other forest litter debris. Really huge progress. Probably hasn't burned in 100 years in that area. And then here's down at the is that the Coombsville Wild Horse Fire Safe Council. There's somebody just abusing a tree with a limbing saw there. Oh, that's Sherry. Sorry. And then yeah, we got a stuffed trailer out of there. I think that's something like 15 yards of material. That it was a lot of fun. Thanks you guys for working together on that. On a related matter, Napa County Fire Department graduated about another 20 local firefighters that have local knowledge, and they're already at work. There's one there burning up at the Castle View Ranch. Old Howell Mountain Road, we cleaned up again. I don't have any after pictures. I'll get those to you next time. But look at this landslide. It's actually City of St. Helena came and cleaned up their dirt, which was great because this fell in those heavy rains of February, blocking the road. So, you know, Firewise works collaboratively with all kinds of cities and governments and agencies. This was one of our most exciting projects we embarked on this year. This is up in PUC property, and it's the Wildland Urban Interface Fuels Reduction. So if any of you drive on Old Howell Mountain Road, I'm sorry, Howell Mountain Road, you can see what looks like a park now that used to be a jungle. This is also an area that the CAL FIRE 21 grant cleaned up. This is Crestmont's main well and main water supply. And after the CAL FIRE funded Napa Firewise work was completed, the community has already stepped in to maintain it. So you can see they've hired a local contractor here, and they're looking at maintaining the fuels work that we did. So this is just textbook, that we're doing the heavy lifting, and then the landowners are doing the maintenance. So thank you so much, Crestmont. And then here is another video. This is on Highway 120. Is it 8 or Highway 121? Highway 128 going from Tubbs Lane to the Sonoma County border, which was hit really bad in the Tubbs fire. There was a lot of dead debris hanging over the road, and it was going to be a lot of radiant heat. So it's park-like now for about 80 feet off the side of the road. That is not what it looked like before we treated it. It's just amazing. So if you get a chance to drive up to Alexander Valley, please do. That's it for my updates. And just as a side note, that we treated 10 roads with Napa County money this calendar year so far. So it's been a lot of progress. Thank you very much. Any questions? Uh-oh.
Great job.
Crickets. Thanks, Brandon.
I think it's really worth noting, everybody, that you know, a lot of we're out there scoping and sizing and developing lots of projects, working with our fire safe councils, and the county, Napa County, shepherded in part, you know, with JR, really deserves a lot of credit for recognizing that we can implement these projects, but they have to be maintained. And as we move into subsequent years of Napa County funding, you know, we're able to have some confidence that we can go back and we can maintain these things sort of on a every 2 or 3 year rotation for about 40-ish% of the cost of implementation. And, you know, this really only works in a durable way if it's sustained and there's maintenance, and the county's committed to that. They funded not only the implementation, but they, you know, are also funding much of the maintenance on the county roads and some of these perimeter fuel breaks, and even some of the dozer containment lines that we put in originally with Vintner money.
It's true. And then that's the Napa County 25 budget that we're going to activate in late July, basically. So you're going to see a whole nother round of projects coming from us, and we'll we'll publicize that pretty soon here, what that list of roads is.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Sorry
No
about the tree
questions?
joke there, Sherry. Hopefully you can take that.
No,
Yeah.
that was a
Okay.
fantastic day. There were so many people rolling up their sleeves, and Steve was out there working his butt off all day long with the members of the Coonsville Wild Horse and the Grange Hall to do the transformation. So it was really a great day out. So thank you. And Mike Wilson too, and family. All right. Any updates from fire, Jason? Oh, no, we're almost there, but Jason, Fire Fair. I'm gonna say your name wrong every single
Hi,
time. Sorry.
everyone. Hi, good evening. Yeah, thanks for having me. The only thing that I'd like to kind of share with the group or report is that we've officially entered into fire season. And we've also, I guess, as of tomorrow, for the most part, we have completed most of our prescribed fire projects, which is kind of piggybacking off of what everyone is saying, and all the hard work that NCFF has done. But we are fully ready for fire season and geared up and ready to go. So, but yeah, thank you for all the preparation work from NCFF throughout the springtime. It's been a culmination of many hours and many hands, and with the fire marshal's office, and it's been a culmination of a lot of different entities to get to where we are today. And at least from the Cal Fire Napa County side, we feel like we're there, we're ready to go, and we're looking forward to what the season brings. So. Again, thanks for having me, everyone.
Thanks, Jason. And JR.
Hello, everybody. Yeah, two updates. One from this year's budget, or for budget season, as Steve and Joe kind of alluded to. County's budget was approved yesterday in board, which is great, which is now unlocking our fiscal year 25-26. And so, yeah, we'll have contracts unlocked here shortly for NCFF for about $3.5 million, which will be a lot of that headed towards fuels mitigation work. So, Steve mentioned they'll be getting that listing out here shortly of what that exactly entails. But I will say that, we are headed into maintenance mode. As Joe alluded, we have a lot of things that we've done over the last 5 or so years, and we need to keep it up. So not much in the way per se of new things, mostly going into maintenance. And then really committing to keeping up. Joe, I can't remember, 17 miles. It's a lot of miles of dozer lines that have been put in over the past few years.
187 miles total of dozer containment lines. Yeah.
Which is a lot more than 17, as it turns out. It's 17 projects, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
Okay, a lot of that we're going to keep, commit to keeping up and doing a run through every single year. So we're pretty excited and happy about that. The second thing that I'll bring up and share, and in fact, this was new this afternoon, that we kind of sort of were able to get this live and going, and I'm going to share my screen as a dashboard that you'll have access to. I've talked to Sherry and Lori about this a bit. They knew it was coming. But here it is. This is this dashboard out of our chipping website, where I'll put the link in here in a minute, where you can go in and dig into what's been happening pretty much in real time as our teams are doing it, what pickups and yardage and resident investment is. And so in the upper right hand corner, you can go here and click and find your particular fire safe council. You can select as many as you want. So we're going to unselect Napa County here specifically and just look at Circle Oaks, but you can dig in here and grab some of your, the yardage and the resident hours, which I know are big for your fire safe council recognition, and see what's going on. One thing I will say about the map is that it does do heat mapping here, as you can kind of see, and it does. If you highlight over it, it tells you the number of the yardage there. It does stop after a certain period of time, so no one can creep on you and figure out whose house was actually picked up over time. But that information, like I said, I'm going to drop this into the chat here in a moment, the link, and feel free to play. I will say there's one bug that we found this afternoon. And that is that Angwin Fire Safe Council comes up first every single time. So congratulations, Angwin. We will fix that so it's the county as a whole. But do note to unselect Angwin and then go select your fire safe council, and yeah, take a look at what's happened specifically in your area. So I saw a hand. Brandon, do you have a question?
If it's possible, I'd like to mention the beacon box project that I've been working on, if that's appropriate.
I'll let Lori and Sherry shepherd that one, but just any final questions on the chipping program?
Keep up the chipping, gang. Keep doing your
Yeah.
piles, get them out on the road. This is really a fantastic resource in the county. The fact that we can get, chipping done free of charge. So, I mean, just keep it up. This program runs all the way through October.
End of October. Yeah, beginning
End
of
of
November. We'll
end
see
of
how the weather
October.
goes. Yeah.
Yeah, and county's got new reliable trucks and chippers, great equipment. They get out, they get it done. They have pretty fast turnaround right now on a ticket to actually getting the work done. So, many years ago, it was like you'd submit these things and it might take 2.5, 3 months. The county is on it, and they got great crews. So we need to just keep that woody debris coming out, piling it up, organizing it, and letting these guys turn it into chips on the ground.
Absolutely.
Quick question from JR. Yeah. We have that permit now drafted from the state parks for the roads up to Stony Hill and our place. And there's going to be a significant amount of slope material. I'd love to try to schedule some chipping with that. That's a very large scale. Like we have 27, I think it is, Doug firs that need to come down on my section alone, and they're another 2 miles past me. So we've got a lot of chipping to do up here. So I'd like to talk offline.
Yeah, shoot me an email, and either myself or Alan, who's kind of our lead supervisor, will come out, we'll take a look, and yeah, come see what's going on and come up with a plan. So absolutely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. That's all I got. Thank you all.
Fantastic. And I know we've reached our 6 o'clock time, but again, if you would like to stay on a little bit longer and hear about the beacon boxes and any other quick updates, I'm happy to stay on.
Am I allowed to share screen?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I will share the screen here. Those of you who know me know that I've been working on a beacon box program that had first started the Hennessy Rector Fire Safe Council. It's you'll see this red box at the very end of a Long Ranch Road across the street from the Hennessy boat ramp. Inside this box are basically cheat sheets of the Fire Safe Council, Hennessy Rector. And my goal is to get these boxes spread throughout the valley. And what the purpose of these boxes are, like I said, they're cheat sheets for crews that are not familiar with the area, that come in from out of town, that come to assist. And the goal again is to get these throughout the valley. So most recently, the Spring Mountain Fire Safe Council has acquired through a Firewise and a PG&E grant 4 boxes for Spring Mountain Fire Safe Council. So Eric and I went through and found these locations here to post these beacon boxes inside. Each box is the adjacent map. And unfortunately, there was a bit of a setback because the Flame Mappers is the company that produces these boxes. The facility that housed the boxes burnt down in the Palisades fire in January. So they lost their facility. But they're coming back. The boxes are coming back, and we spoke with them late last week, and we're in the process of developing the maps for Spring Mountain. And we're trying to figure out a way to get the boxes out here and mounted while we are developing these maps. And in the meantime, we can put whatever maps we want in there. But the point is, if take for example, Spring Mountain Road, we'll have a beacon box down at the elementary school at the bottom of Spring Mountain, which could be a rally point for Cal Fire or fire crews from out of town. Inside this box will be maps of Lower Spring Mountain, Langtree, and Upper Spring Mountain. And so the maps inside will have critical information about critical infrastructure, turnaround points. Hopefully we can coordinate with CAL FIRE and get overlays of roadside clearance and fuel breaks and things like that, ridge top breaks and things like that is the point. So when these guys come in from out of town, they aren't going up into an unfamiliar area without knowing what's up there, knowing where they can turn around. They can enter an unknown territory with confidence. And that's the project that I'm working on at the moment.
And Brandon, just one more thought on that was
Yeah.
we want to get the boxes installed sooner than later, JR, so that maybe we could put pre-attack maps in there at least at a minimum and have them visually in the community so people are seeing them in action this year. That would be a goal. And then we'd layer in additional infrastructure maps as we gather the data in each of our blocks. You can see those grids, those rectangles are basically our neighborhoods here in the 10,000 acre FSC.
Big FSC. If you guys, when those boxes go in, if you could, Pam or Brandon, either of you, if you guys could shoot me an email with maybe the GPS location of that, I will drop a icon onto our mapping system for tablet command, which will kind of show where that is. We got a special one we can use. And then from that, tablet command is actually moving into CAL FIRE over the next year or so. So it's going to be in every single CAL FIRE apparatus statewide, which will be great. So we can get some of that information out there.
Terrific. That's Eric and I went around and pinpointed each location, so I have the GPS coordinates.
Send it over. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you, everyone.
Go, Brandon.
Great work, Brandon. And the beacon box strategy totally aligns with this whole sort of enhanced resilience side strategy as well. So obviously we were able to secure the money from PG&E for this kind of pilot concept. But as JR mentioned, the tablet command system is now CAL FIRE wide, which means even when they trigger a mutual aid agreement, outside resources will use that tablet command, which is where we will show all the enhanced resilience sites and some of these other resilience attributes, our various projects and things like that. So it all sort of is integrated together, and it really is about providing firefighters with better, more accurate, actionable intelligence so that they're spending less time in exploratory mode and more time out there conducting containment operations.
Correct. If you'd like, I can show an example of the Hennessy Rector map that we have completed.
I know we're a little over time, but
yeah, that's fine. We can do it some other time.
Yeah, and I know there are other fire state councils who are interested in getting a hold of beacon boxes for your fire state council as well. So
I think it'd be great maybe if at our next meeting we could dig in a little bit more on beacon boxes in your project to share with others, and maybe we can get some questions in advance from people on questions that they have for you. So it might be a great session to have.
Terrific. Maybe I could, if the timing's right, I'd coordinate one of the members of the fly mappers to come and speak on our behalf.
Great. While Brandon's pulling that up, a quick shout out to Eli from Mount George Fire State Council. They just attained their Firewise USA recognition for their Fire State Council. So congratulations on that. Thank you for joining us.
JR's new tool will help everyone with getting their metrics on, the piles and things like that. And I just wanted to remind everyone, I know we've been trying to help and not pester, but we'll be following up on your Firewise. It's mid-year, checking in on where you're at in preparation for your renewals in November. So you'll be hearing from us. And with that, I know we're at 10 after, and we promised you 6 o'clock, but this was such a useful call. And I just want to thank everyone, Eric, Joe, JR, Jason, Brandon, all of you on there acting as, the leaders in your community and leaning in on this call and everything that you do every day. We really appreciate you. Please let us know if there's anything that you need from us, either at these monthly calls or in between. We really want to make sure that we are in service to you and helping you with your missions. So thank you.
And a quick shout out, I did put in the chat, we do have a field trip coming up this Sunday in the PUC Forest up in England to take a look at some prescribed fire, one that was done in May with the Prescribed Burn Association and one that was done May the previous year with CAL FIRE and the local fire department. So it'll be really cool to go out there and see all the work that's been going on in the forest out there with your forest health grant. We were Napa Firewise received from Cal Fire, and it's we'll have a lot of smarty pants out there to ask questions and kind of see what can be done to manage the forest, learn about the constraints as well. And I know Rich has had some more fire in his neighborhood too, down in Coonsville Wild Horse. So stay tuned for more explorations. But I did put a link in the chat because there is an opportunity to RSVP just to help us get an idea of how many people will be coming out for that little walk in the woods.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.